Yes.
All right. We got another section called recommended resources. You guys have any resources you'd recommend to laundromat owners or potential laundromat owners to help them improve their business or maybe themselves personally?
This is going to be very, very vague, but if you don't have a business background, just go do the cliche Business for Dummies book. So that you can understand the terminology around profit and loss statements, balance sheets, interest rates, lease agreements, contracts, just the basics of business. So that way, when you take on one, you're able to understand a lot of the conversations that are being had around that laundromat. I know that's not super fancy, but that's a really good development resource to use if you've never done anything like this before.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's ever said that before on the podcast, but I mean, I think that's probably one of the best recommended resources that has been given on here, other than the people who said, my stuff, obviously. Best resource. But in all honesty, I mean, like getting the business basics, it's going to get you a long way, because when I got in the business, I didn't know anything about business at all, let alone laundromat business. Right. Mm-hmm. And it was a long, hard learning curve to do that. And if I would have kind of built that foundation ahead of time, it would have saved me a lot of time, effort, money, all that. Yeah. So I think that's great. Great recommended resource.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll say this too. I'm backtracking a little bit to a pro tip. The other pro tip is, you hear the cliche all the time, begin with the end in mind. When you're taking over, this could go for any business, but in a laundromat, since that's what we're talking about today, think about what you want it to look like at the end and start building it that way from the beginning. And what I mean by that, don't approach it from the standpoint of, I'll buy this right now and this will get me over until I get ready to have, to entertain taking on a larger capacity wash load. Instead, think about, all right, ultimately, I want to be able to have people come in here and wash in a 100-pound dryer. So if you know that's your ultimate goal, lay your store out mentally in your mind of how you're going to do it around a 100-pound washer. And that will dictate all your decisions of purchasing other washers and dryers along the way. So if you put the infrastructure in place up front, it makes it so much easier once you get rocking and rolling to make adjustments. Because to go back and tear your infrastructure down, and not tear it down, but to go back and do the basics once you get started, it's just really, really hard. I know the fire department said put two fire extinguishers in here, but I think I can skate it without doing that. Well, don't do it. Just go ahead and put the fire extinguishers in place now. They're probably not going to ever get used, but go ahead and put it in place now, so that if something comes about and someone says, hey, I could come in and enhance your entire store, but I need to do an analysis of your store. Oh, you don't have fire extinguishers, so I can't do anything to help you out. Oh man, we got to get fire extinguishers. And we got another scenario where you go to Costco and can't find a fire extinguisher anymore because, we got manufacturing backlogs. I'm going down a rabbit hole, but put your infrastructure in place first and build on top of it.
Yeah, I think it's a great pro tip, because I mean, so even just today, like right before we jumped on this call, I was out at a laundromat location that looking to pick up with Diligent Capital Investments, which is a syndication group that we go out and buy laundromats and real estate. And the store that we're looking at picking up is a disaster. It's a huge mess, right? The layout's horrible. The way that the machines are in there is terrible. I mean, it's just bad, right? So what we were doing today is basically kind of breaking it down. What can we keep? What do we need to change? And what is the end of what we want this place to look like and start there, so that whether we do it right up front, which we'll probably do it right up front for us this time, or if we're going to do it later, while we're making plans about it, we know where we're trying to go, right? Yeah. We know what we're trying to do. And I think that's great advice, because that's the way to run a successful business, right? I'm kind of naturally shoot from the hip kind of guy, just in general in life. But school of hard knocks after my first laundromat disaster, kind of learned that, you know what, you need to have a plan going in, not just of what you want it to look like, but it's also worth thinking about how you want to exit, even if you don't want to exit for 10, 20 years. Mm-hmm. Right. And I tell my coaching clients all the time, like, hey, start keeping good books up front, because that is going to make your laundromat more valuable down the line. If people can get financing for your laundromat, it's going to make it more valuable. So if you decide 5, 10, 20 years down the line, you want to sell it and you have good books, then it's just going to be worth a lot more. So
it's a great point.
Yeah.